Welcome to episode number 2 of my 6-part mini-series helping over 30s finally learn how to achieve and sustain their dream body and healthy lifestyle. And in episode number 2, in today's video, I'm going to be talking all about how we can overcome self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is something that is incredibly familiar with you. Anytime that you pursue your health and fitness journey, anytime that you try to lose weight, to get on the bandwagon and finally make it happen, you ultimately always end up self-sabotaging. And it's just this recurring cycle that you can't seem to break free of. And this is why, as I said in episode number 1, which if you haven't already, please go ahead and watch it, because one of the first things that I'll talk about today with regards to self-sabotage is it's an identity issue. Okay, it's a fundamental belief that you have that you are not worthy of success and that you're not good enough. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail. But yeah, go ahead and watch episode 1 if you haven't. I talked all about changing your mindset and evolving your identity. And in today's training, it's how we can overcome self-sabotage. So the first thing that I want to do when we kind of look at self-sabotage, okay, I want you to understand why it happens, because there's so much power in understanding why it happens, because then we have the ability to change it. And I'm going to give you some practical steps that you can take to start overcoming self-sabotage. Because as I said in last week's and episode's 1 video, that unless we change our mindset, we ain't going to change. We're never going to truly learn how to, achieve and sustain the results that we want. It's never going to stand the test of time. It's never going to be integrated into our everyday life. So we've got to look at self-sabotage and kind of think, well, why does it fundamentally happen? And as I said, it's an identity issue. It's because on a deeper level, the narratives that you have in your head is that, well, I'm not that person. I can never be a fit, healthy person. I was born overweight. I've got bad genetics. My hormones don't allow for it. I've got a slow metabolism. I've always been big. I like food too much. These are the stories that you tell yourself. And this is why you self-sabotage. Okay, this is why self-sabotage happens whenever you make a start in your journey, you get going, and then something happens and you self-sabotage. It's because fundamentally you don't believe that you are the type of person that can achieve that result. That is it. Fact. That is the one thing. And if we can therefore change our identity, evolve it to be more in line with who we want to become, and also build our self-belief along the way, and kind of shift our values and the internal dialogue we have with ourselves, we're able to actually overcome self-sabotage. We're able to actually recognize when it's happening and know and adopt the kind of the mental approach we need to make better decisions. That's all it is. It's making better decisions, So it's all about identity. So again, if you haven't, I cannot stress this enough, go ahead and watch the first episode. That is the absolute foundation of everything, your successful result that you want to ditch the yo-yo weight loss cycle, to finally achieve and sustain your dream body, your healthy lifestyle, like everything that you want to achieve. It's built on solid foundations, and we have to change your mindset first. That's why it's episode 1. So watch that first, and then we can now delve into kind of self-sabotage. So it's an identity issue. And one of the big things as well that kind of then feeds into is that when we don't believe fundamentally that we are that person, that we can be that person that you're striving to become, healthier, happier, inside and out, well, that creates this kind of lack of self-belief. So when the journey gets hard, okay, it triggers our fixed mindset. We believe that, something always gets in the way, or, this is feeling like too much of an effort. And it kind of makes us feel like we're not good enough. It makes us feel like, why is this so hard? It's because, I was never meant to achieve this. I like food too much. I was born this way, and again, it all ties back to that identity. The narratives that you have in your head, the set of beliefs that creates, how that then influences your behavior and actions, and therefore your outcome being self-sabotage. So in terms of how we can start to shift that pattern, right, and start to overcome self-sabotage, we have to know that we need to change our identity, but also we need to build more self-belief. Because you lack the self-belief, when the going gets tough, you blame that on a lack of self-worth. It's getting tough, something's happened, it all goes out the window and you throw it all away. And that's because you lack that self-belief. So we've got to look at building self-belief. And as I kind of talked through with the identity training, evolving your identity is all about creating new evidence to suggest that you are who you say you are, that you are becoming the person that you deep down want. And that's, created through action. okay, through taking action. It's why our habit building system is absolutely incredible, and it helps over 30s to finally achieve and sustain their dream body, because we're creating new evidence to challenge the narratives that you've always had in your head to say, actually, you can do this, you are doing this, okay? And it's so easy to implement and done in a way that builds you up, that creates evidence, that exposes you to achievements. That's how we start to change that identity. That's how we build new self-belief. And one of the things when it comes to self-sabotage is the power lies in the reframe, okay? I want you to think about this kind of car analogy. And this is when you think about it logically now, when we're not emotional and we're kind of balanced, you kind of think, yeah, why would I do that? And this is the car analogy. So if you were driving down the road in a car and one of your tires popped, you would take it to a garage and get the tire fixed. Simple as that. You wouldn't pull over and then pop the other 3 tires. That's just like, why would you even do that? It doesn't even make sense. You know, you wouldn't, one of your tires wouldn't pop and then you wouldn't go pop all the 3, would you? Absolutely not. So why don't we do it with our health and fitness goal? Why do we let one little thing suddenly turn into a snowball of 5,000 things? When we've had one bad day and we've, you know, had a chocolate bar which we didn't want to have because we're so stressed and someone shoved it in our face, why do we then go home and it turn into, oh, well, I'm just going to get a takeaway for dinner. Oh, I'm going to have a bottle of wine. Oh, do you know what? Forget health and fitness. I ain't going to the gym tomorrow. I can't be bothered. I'm going to lie in. Why does it then turn into this snowball effect? That's why the car analogy is such a useful thing to understand, because then what you truly realize is that, look, we can't stop the tire of our car popping. If there's a nail in a road, if someone shoots it, whatever it may be, we can't stop that happening. Just as you can't, in your health and fitness journey, stop family drama, stop stresses of life, stop it kicking off at work. You can't foresee a lot of challenges that are going to come your way. It's just the chaos of life, especially as an over 30, with a family, with a busy job, with a career. So we have to learn to normalize and accept that challenges and curveballs and life's chaos are always going to be a presence in our journey to getting to where we want to be. So we have to normalize it. We have to accept it. We have to not get so frustrated and beat ourselves up. That's the difference between adults that, you know, don't self-sabotage and those that do. The ones that self-sabotage, when something small happens, they make it into this big thing. And again, it's all because it leads back to that identity. The identity that you're not good enough, that you were never born this way, that you've tried and failed for years. So, this suggests it. This has happened. It doesn't feel right. It feels harder. I'm thrown off track. I give in. It all ties down to that identity. So we've got to learn to kind of, like I said, the power lies in the reframe, our ability to take a step back, see the bigger picture in their moments. Because self-sabotage happens to anybody that chooses to react not aligned with who they want to come. You're thinking, if you think in the old identity and the version of yourself that you are now, that's not going to align to who you want to be. So we've got to kind of be able to reframe things. So that's the first thing when we look at overcoming self-sabotage. Evolve our identity, building self-belief by creating new evidence that suggests we can do this, we are doing this, all right? Exposing you to achievements and getting you to actually believe in what you're doing. That's the key thing, because that will give you the willpower and the resilience when the going gets tough, that actually, I'm not going to sabotage. It's just one day. I'm going to push through. You know, I'm going to keep working hard. I'm going to see the bigger picture. Okay, and that's why the power lies in the reframe, because when something happens, we can take a step back and go, well, was it my fault, really? Was it even inside my control, or did it just happen? Or what can I learn from it? Instead of, you know, demonizing yourself, placing that on your self-worth for just being a human, making a mistake or falling into a challenge, and then throwing everything out the window, popping all the tires in the car. Okay, so the power lies in the reframe, your ability to stop, take a step back and see the bigger picture, always. And it's all about your perception, okay? The way that you choose to react to a situation. Now, where it gets a little bit more complicated is that if you're an overstressed individual, you're stressed because you hate how you look, you hate how you feel, you're inconsistent with health and fitness, that stresses you out because you don't want to live like this, but you're stressed at home with your partner, you're stressed at work, life is just a big stress ball, and you're not great at managing your emotions, then it gets very hard to make decisions, because when our emotions are high, our intelligence is low. So this is a whole nother kind of angle to look at it from, but our ability to reduce stress in our life, learn how to manage our emotions effectively, it is going to be a superpower and really allow you to overcome self-sabotage and stop it happening as regularly. But another thing that we can do to really and this kind of ties into building self-belief, because that's really important to overcome self-sabotage, is to keep the commitments that you make to yourself at all costs. Okay, this is one of the things that I talk about in the self-belief training that every client I get to watch when they're in week 2 of their journey in phase establish. Because how many times have you said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, okay? Right, from Monday, that's it, I'm on it, let's go. You make all these commitments, but then you just break them. You never see them through. And it might sound like something small, every Sunday going, right, I'm back on it tomorrow, and then not actually getting back on it. But what that's done over the years is build disbelief, because you just build this flaky relationship with yourself. And a lot of the time it's subconscious, because if you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, well, the evidence that you have is that, I say I'm going to do something, I don't do it. I talk a good game, but I don't walk it. So just a little thing that you can take from this video doing forward, be really careful of the commitments you make to yourself, because every commitment that you make to yourself, no matter how small or big, absolutely matters for building them layers of self-belief that are all going to filter into your identity shift, into overcoming self-sabotage. Okay, so moving forward, make a commitment to yourself. Honestly, live by this and it will completely change your life. Keep the commitments that you made to yourself at all costs. If you say you're going to go on a health and fitness journey, you want to lose 10 kilos, we keep that commitment. We see it through until the end. It doesn't matter what we have to go through. It doesn't matter how many times we fall off the bandwagon, how many challenges we overcome. That is the commitment you made, so see it through. That way you can only ever feel proud of yourself and build positive evidence to support that you can do it, that you are resilient, that you can overcome challenge. That all ties into it. So another thing that I feel massively limits over 30s is, expectation is the thief of joy. I agree, but also expectation, is the thief of everything. Because when we're on a health and fitness journey, and we're expecting so much. Okay, adults that are over 30 that are absolutely desperate to change. Okay, you're absolutely desperate. You've tried everything. You've been stuck in the yo-yo cycle for years, and just the emotional baggage, it just wears you down. You just want to feel, live, and look healthy inside and out. Okay, you just want to be consistent. If that's the place that you're in, I'm right in saying that you're desperate to change. You'll do anything to change. It's just like, please, I just want to change. I just want to get this going and not mess it up and just make it part of my life. So when you start the journey, you expect so much, right? We live in a world where we want Amazon delivery, click the finger and it arrives at our door. We want everything now. We want the end result, right? So we're conditioned in society to believe that we'll only be happy when we achieve the end result. Okay, and we condition ourselves to be so outcome focused. We want to be outcome aware, but we want to be processed focused. We can't bypass the process that needs to happen to achieve a result. So my point here is that we expect the world, okay? You expect the world when you start your journey, and this is your reality. So if this is your reality and you're expecting this level of result, then you're just living in this false reality, because you're expecting this, but this is the level of action that you're taking. That's a massive gap. That's why you feel so frustrated and unfulfilled, and why you self-sabotage. So one of the best things that we can do, it's so simple, but if we actually manage our expectations, okay, and actually lower them more in line with the action that we're willing to take, or the action that we are taking, then the gap's a lot smaller. We feel a lot more fulfilled. We feel like we're on the right track. We feel aligned with the process, and that for the work I'm putting in and for my current level of knowledge and ability, I'm exactly where I need to be. And this is where, over time, and something that I'm massive on in the lean and fulfilled lifestyle, is why we work on the foundational things. And I always make sure that I can get my clients to overachieve and then build you into it. Whereas a lot of PTs and coaches and boot camps and gym classes and AI and all these crazy things that people do and use, they just give you it all straight away. All right, you sign up with a PT and they just kill you for an hour. All right, they just put you through it. They just put you in a bin and they just work you ridiculously hard with no thought process other than we're just absolutely killing it. And it's like, but what is that actually doing? What is that actually doing? That's not building the mindset, the habits, the lifestyle. That's just basically creating more lack of self-belief issues because you're like, this is so hard. How am I ever going to get into good shape? It creates this perception in your mind that, achieving your goal is like rocket science. Like it's so complex and it's so grueling and hard. And it's like, well, it's really not. Like when you start doing things right, things change fast. I have clients lose 1 to 4 pounds a week consistently, and they're just like, I don't even feel like I've sacrificed anything. And that's why if we can just lower our expectations, focus on the process, and actually lower the barrier of entry for yourself to allow you to overachieve, to allow you to build momentum so you don't feel on the back foot from the start. So many adults go into their journey thinking, right, I'm going to do this, let's go from Monday, I'm going to start losing all this weight and blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, but I'm terrified because I know I'm going to have to do all this cardio. I'm going to have to restrict myself. I'm going to have to... And you're just like, you've taught yourself out before you've even started. If we lowered the barrier of entry, manage your expectations, and actually expose you to achievements and, start to work on your identity, like the shift from what you believe you need to do to achieve your result is completely different. It's absolutely liberating because you realize, yeah, it's not that bad. But the final thing that I want to talk about self-sabotage, and something that you probably didn't expect me to say during this training, is that self-sabotage is not necessarily a bad thing. Self-sabotage is not necessarily a bad thing. And actually, it's part of the behavior change process. Whenever we try change behavior, whenever we're trying to shift our identity, evolve into a new version of ourselves, okay, we're leaving years of thinking and feeling a certain way. There's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of, that carries a lot of weight, okay? There's a lot of, therefore, thought processes and behavior patterns and beliefs that are kind of part of you, integrated in, and has basically got you to who you are today. So part of you is dying, and you're leaving a lot behind. That's hard. That's challenging. That's triggering. So whenever you try and change, my point is, you're going to self-sabotage. Every single client I work with self-sabotages multiple times. If you look at cognitive behavior therapy, I think there was a stat, and it was like people that try give up smoking, they have 18 relapses on average before they actually are able to give up. So they self-sabotage 18 times. But then they give up smoking. So it's like, well, they achieved the end result. Fantastic. So we've got to understand that self-sabotage is part of the process. I have clients that start the journey motivated, excited, and then after just the first week, it all kicks off at work. They miss the first workout, and they're like, oh my God, I was supposed to start my journey, and I've literally just had a nightmare. And I'm like, okay, unfortunate, but this has happened, that has happened, this has happened. What can we learn from it? Well, I probably could have organised my diary at the weekend so I kind of knew what I was doing, and then I could have got my session in Thursday evening, and then I could have done a food shop, and it's like, okay, cool. So next time we're prompted and we're faced with a really busy working week, can we get on the front foot? Can we be organised? Can we schedule in ahead of time? Like all of these things. And you can see that actually there's nothing wrong with relapsing. There's nothing wrong with self-sabotage if we learn from it, okay? If we look at it and go, well, this is vital feedback that I now need to change my course and grow moving forward. So self-sabotage isn't a bad thing. You're going to self-sabotage. And that's where it all comes down to your self-belief and identity, because when you do self-sabotage inevitably, or something happens and goes wrong, it's your perception. The power lies in the reframe, as I said. It's how you choose to respond. It's not about avoiding self-sabotage. It's about choosing how to respond. Do we respond with energy, with commitment, with being positive, with problem-solving mindset, or do we just fall victim to the person that we believe ourselves to be, which is this person that's out of shape, hates themselves, poor quality of life, and everything else? So, it's really super important to understand that it's all part of the process. And every time that we self-sabotage, it's never as worse as the first time if we learn from it. It's like an upward cycle. So the first time you might self-sabotage on your diet, it might be a full weekend off the rails. The second time, it might just be one of the days, okay? The next time, it might just be binging after dinner, okay? But the rest of the day was really good. So you can always, every time you self-sabotage, as long as we attack it with the right mindset and we're evolving, it's never as bad as the first time. And actually, it's all part of behavior change. So that is how to overcome self-sabotage. Hopefully, this has opened your eyes up. That is episode number 2, where I've covered mindset. And now as we move into video and episodes 3 and 4, we're now going to be looking at building habits. Okay, we've covered mindset in the first 2 episodes, then we're going to go into habits, and then we'll go into nutrition. So next week's or the next episode, which depending on when you're watching this, it might be somewhere around the screen, so go ahead and click it and watch it. But this is all about how we can build healthy habits that last. So I'm really looking forward to episode number 3. Hopefully you stick around. Any questions, fire away. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.